Well, anybody has grown up in Louisville, Kentucky, and is a football fan has heard the name Victor Anderson. And when Vic came here, Vic is probably the most respected young man I have ever been around in my dealings with college athletics. Here's a man that has wore a tie to school every day in high school. He's come here, he's going to graduate, face of the program, but he can throw any card that he wants out. I mean, if I have a bad day, a lot of times we show that. Vic has had hell go on in his life, and he's able to have a straight face.
Growing up, I had it tough. Grew up in a rough neighborhood. There was days we didn't have lights, we didn't have food, and when I was younger, I wasn't in school yet. My sister was in school. My mom would send me to school with my sister so that I can eat breakfast. And coming home after that, it was like, where am I gonna get my next meal? And my sister came home and we were struggling. My mother was on drugs when we were younger, and she was in and out of the house every day, all day. And then I eventually moved in with my father. My dad, he actually sold drugs, so I saw both worlds, the drug addict and the drug dealer. After my grandmother passed, we moved into her house with one of my uncles, and when we did that, I'm going home to a house with no heat, no lights, no TV. So I'm trying to stay out as late as possible, on the streets to try to, delete that from my life. And my dad and I eventually was kicked out of my grandmother's house. And then we were homeless there for a little bit in high school. When I first got to college, I really never had money. But when you get a scholarship, you get, stipends and Pell Grants and stuff like that. There was a few times I went to my mother's house, and I have 5 little brothers and sisters. Their lights was out, and I did not want them to live or grow up the way I grew up. So I gave the money to my mother so that she can turn on the lights, or she can pay the bills, buy them food, because most of my twin sisters, their dad passed away, and then my other brother and sister, their dad was in penitentiary, and then my other little brother, his dad was in the penitentiary. So there was nobody there to provide. She knew that I was getting money, and she would always call to get the money from me. But, and I was giving it to her and giving it to her and giving it to her, and that caused stress coming onto the football field and in the classroom. And I felt like I was being betrayed, I was being used from my own mother. I was grateful she was off drugs, but I felt like this was another habit that she was addicted to, calling me and asking me for money because she knows I won't say no.
A lot of people feel like it's pressure to walk out of that locker room and come into the stadium and play in front of 55,000 people, and they think, man, what pressure. That's really not pressure. Pressure is when a kid like Vic goes home and he's a sophomore, he's a junior in college, and now he is dealing with things that a 38, that a 48, that a 58 man is not dealing with. Football is not pressure, that lifestyle is pressure. Some people just have a bad day because it's Monday. You have no idea what problems are until you deal with some of these issues that these guys are dealing with.
It got to the point where I just broke down, and I was going to counseling, getting help, and I'd even talk to Chris, and he prayed for me and just told me if there's anything I ever needed to call him. So Chris was always in my ear, always on the other side of my text messages, telling me he's here for me. He's got a praying hand for me, him and his family. All that he's done for me, all that he's done for this team, all that he's done for many teams around the campus. Every baseball game I go to, he's in the dugout. Every time I see him around campus, he's talking to an athlete. He's just an example of the man upstairs.